Welcome to the SmartKeys podcast. Imagine you have engineered like the absolute greatest product of the decade.
Oh, the dream scenario.
Right. Your industrial design is flawless, the marketing campaign is winning awards, and your website is just gorgeous. And yet, a competitor with a demonstrably inferior product is somehow beating you by 30% in pure profit margin while, totally taking over the global market.
Yeah, that happens way more often than you'd think.
It does. And why does that happen? It happens because they figured out the invisible architecture of commerce while you were still obsessing over your logo.
Exactly.
So today we are talking about navigating modern distribution channels for global reach. Because how a company physically and digitally moves its products from the manufacturing floor to the buyer's hands, well, it dictates not just their profit margins, but their entire market footprint and the customer experience in a fast-moving digital-first world.
It really is the ultimate behind-the-scenes engine of modern business. I mean, you can have the most disruptive product on the market, but if your supply network doesn't support the actual customer journey, or worse, if it eats up all your margins before the product even hits a retail shelf, well, you are going to lose.
Yeah, you lose to whoever simply built a more efficient route to the consumer.
Right. The logistics and the strategy of how you sell are often, way more important than what you actually sell.
Absolutely. So our mission today is to unpack a phenomenal article by Felix Römer from SmartKeys. We want to extract the exact strategic insights you need to adapt to modern commerce, optimize your business efficiency, and stay ahead of the competition.
A total insider strategy briefing.
Yes, consider this your deep dive briefing.
Yeah.
And to really visualize the stakes here, I want you to think of distribution channels like a sprawling city's water system.
Oh, I like this.
Right. So if you are the water source, you have some main pipes that go direct from your reservoir straight into a customer's house. That is a direct channel.
Simple, clean.
Exactly. But then you have other routes that pass through multiple regional reservoirs, treatment plants, pumping stations before finally trickling into a suburban neighborhood.
Yeah, it gets complicated fast.
It really does.
Yeah.
And every extra pipe, every extra facility you add gives you more reach into brand new neighborhoods. But every single addition costs you water pressure.
Right.
And in business, that water pressure is your profit margin.
I love that water pressure analogy because what happens when a business just keeps, indiscriminately adding pipes to try and reach everyone?
They get leaks.
They get massive leaks. You create a system where by the time the product reaches the end user, your margin has turned into a mere trickle. It's completely absorbed by the friction of the network.
Yeah, which is a nightmare.
Right. So before we even consider applying the latest AI or digital software to manage these massive networks, we first have to understand the underlying plumbing. You have to be incredibly deliberate about picking touch points that add clear, measurable value, rather than just acting as a toll booth on the way to the customer.
So we have to look at the core flow of any channel, which is inherently a two-way street.
Mm-hmm.
The physical goods move forward from the producer, pushing through various intermediaries out to the consumer.
Oh, physical flow, yeah.
But flowing in reverse, backward, through those exact same pipes is your revenue. And arguably, something even more vital flows backward your data.
Oh.
Orders, inventory depletion rates, customer behavior patterns, all of that feeds back into your forecasting and dictates whether your factory should speed up or shut down.
And depending on the complexity of those pipes, distribution is categorized into different tiers. At the absolute baseline, you have the level 0 or direct-to-consumer model.
Right.
DTC,
Right.
which, by the way, also perfectly describes software as a service. You are selling straight to the end user, you manufacture the physical good, or you compile the code and the customer buys it directly from your proprietary website.
No middleman.
None. And this route maximizes your margin because you keep all the water pressure. It gives you total, uncompromising control over your brand presentation. And crucially, it feeds you pristine, first-party customer data.
Okay, let's unpack this. If selling direct gives you the absolute highest profit margins, total control over your brand narrative, and all that highly coveted first-party customer data, why doesn't every single business simply go direct?
That is the million-dollar question.
Right, because we constantly hear thought pieces declaring the death of the middleman in the internet age. Are middlemen actually dying out, or are we just misunderstanding their function? Because voluntarily giving up a huge chunk of your margin to a retailer seems, well, counterintuitive for a modern brand.
What's fascinating here is that the middleman is absolutely not dying. Not at all. They are acting as crucial force multipliers.
Force multipliers, okay.
Yeah, Romer establishes a core rule in the text. He says short chains protect margin, longer chains buy reach.
That's a great way to put it.
Right. Yes, a direct model is phenomenal for your per unit profit, but scaling a pure direct model is incredibly capital intensive and brutally slow.
Because you have to build everything yourself.
Exactly. If you want to enter a new regional market or launch in a different country, building your own warehouses, securing local logistics, and, hiring a massive sales force requires massive upfront capital expenditure. It takes years.
Yeah.
That is where level 1 to level 3 indirect distribution becomes a superpower.
Because inserting a retailer into the chain suddenly gives you access to their massive pre-existing storefront footprint and their everyday foot traffic.
Precisely. You leverage their real estate.
Yeah.
And it goes deeper than just retail. When you introduce level 2 wholesalers into the mix, you are utilizing them to do something called breaking bulk.
Breaking bulk, meaning what exactly?
Well, a wholesaler buys massive ocean freight level shipments from you, which optimizes your manufacturing and freight costs. They then break those massive pallets down to supply hundreds of individual independent retailers. The wholesaler essentially acts as a giant shock absorber for your inventory and a bank for your accounts receivable.
Which becomes even more critical when expanding internationally, I'd imagine.
Oh, absolutely.
Because bringing in level 3 global agents or brokers means you are trading a slice of your margin for their local market know-how. These agents don't necessarily even take physical ownership of the product, right?
Still, often they don't, no.
They broker the relationships, they manage the complex local compliance laws, and they drastically reduce the friction of entering a completely foreign market. You're quite literally paying for their Rolodex and their localized speed.
Exactly. You accept a significantly lower margin per unit because these intermediaries are managing the localized logistics, the merchandising, and the in-store execution.
Which frees you up.
Yes. This allows your internal corporate team to focus entirely on what they do best, product development and top-level global strategy. It is a calculated strategic trade-off between the pressure of the water and how many neighborhoods you realistically want to supply.
So since pure direct is too slow and capital intensive to scale globally,
Yeah.
but pure indirect bleeds too much of your margin and separates you from customer data, top businesses are forced to blend these plumbing systems.
They have to.
They use a hybrid model to capture the market.
The hybrid approach is the defining hallmark of modern commerce. The goal is to capture demand wherever the customer naturally prefers to shop without overextending your own internal operations.
Right.
You blend your direct e-commerce website with strategic retail partners and massive online marketplaces. But the secret to making this work is knowing exactly which product belongs in which specific pipe.
Which is tricky.
Very. You map highly configurable, incredibly complex, or service-rich items to your direct channels. That is where you have the staff to guide the customer through a complex purchase. Conversely, you push your mass appeal, volume-driven goods through your massive retail partners.
The contrasting examples in the text really crystallize this. Look at a brand like Warby Parker.
Oh, great example.
They utilized home try-ons to completely bypass traditional optical shops, keeping absolute control over their brand experience and protecting their high margins. But compare that to Coca-Cola.
Total opposite end of the spectrum.
Right. Coca-Cola relies on an intensive distribution strategy. They demand maximum inescapable availability. They want their product in every supermarket, every gas station, and every vending machine on Earth.
Everywhere you look.
Yeah. For them, retail partnerships are the entire lifeblood of the company because impulse purchasing is what drives their astronomical volume.
And you see totally different variations depending on the industry. Tech hardware manufacturers often utilize a heavy wholesale route to effectively service massive electronics chains without having to, manage thousands of individual store deliveries themselves.
Which would be a nightmare.
Exactly. Or look at the franchise model, like McDonald's. They achieve rapid, massive global scale by creating a deeply codified, foolproof operations playbook.
Right.
This allows local independent business owners to expand the brand's physical reach using their own capital, while the parent company preserves strict quality control and brand standards.
So the strategies really break down into 3 distribution styles, right? Intensive, selective, and exclusive.
Spot on.
Intensive is the Coca-Cola model of being absolutely everywhere. Selective is keeping a tighter, curated retail mix, maybe limiting yourself to just high-end department stores. And exclusive is severely limiting where your product is sold to artificially preserve prestige and keep margins sky high, like a luxury mechanical watch brand.
Right, highly controlled.
But I have to push back on this whole hybrid concept for a second.
Okay, lay it on me.
If you are selling your products directly on your own website, and you are also selling those exact same products through a big box retailer down the street,
Yeah.
aren't you just trying to ride three horses at once? Aren't you directly competing with yourself and cannibalizing your own sales channels?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, that exact tension is what destroys poorly managed hybrid companies.
I would imagine.
It really is. It is why mastering the concept of channel marketing is a non-negotiable survival skill. You have to stop viewing your retail partners merely as endpoints where you dump inventory and start treating them as highly valuable B2B customers.
Okay, makes sense.
To prevent that cannibalization you mentioned and to stop channels from going to war with each other, you have to establish extremely clear governance. This fundamentally means setting up pricing fences.
Walk us through how a pricing fence actually works in practice. How do you create boundaries so these channels don't just bleed into each other and start a race to the bottom on price?
It requires engineering distinct value propositions for different channels. For example, you might offer a specific premium bundle, a unique colorway, or an extended warranty exclusively on your direct site.
Ah, okay.
Right. Meanwhile, the standard base level version goes to your mass market retail partners. You also have to aggressively align your promotional calendars.
Because you don't want to step on their toes.
Exactly. You cannot undercut your retail partner's highly publicized summer clearance sale with a massive flash discount on your own homepage the exact same week.
That would ruin the relationship.
Totally. You have to train their staff, provide top-tier marketing assets, and align financial incentives like volume rebates. When you establish clear territories, your partners understand exactly how they can win without feeling like the parent brand is actively trying to steal their local customers.
But enforcing that kind of complex governance across hundreds of wholesalers, thousands of retail doors, and a global direct-to-consumer site sounds like an absolute logistical nightmare.
Oh, it used to be impossible.
I mean, you would need a sprawling army of accountants and regional managers just to monitor price and compliance alone. Humans simply cannot track that volume of real-time market data,
No way.
which is exactly why the modern digital toolkit has evolved from a nice-to-have luxury into the absolute foundation of distribution strategy.
Digital architecture is the great equalizer here. Modern commerce dictates that data must sit at the absolute center of every single channel decision, replacing gut feelings and guesswork with enterprise-grade precision.
Right.
The software available today allows a relatively lean corporate team to manage global, multi-tiered partner networks that would have required thousands of employees just 20 years ago.
We are looking at a few distinct categories of software, starting with customer relationship management systems, or CRMs, paired with deep analytics.
The core engine.
Yeah, a proper CRM acts as a unified data layer for the entire business. It pulls in direct customer interactions, global partner lead data, and real-time inventory records into one centralized nervous system. It allows a company to track key performance indicators across different routes, like sales velocity, meaning how fast a specific product moves off a specific retailer's shelf, and the exact cost to serve for each distinct channel.
And layering automation and artificial intelligence on top of that data is where the real efficiency happens. Automation is deployed to handle the soul-crushing, repetitive work.
The busy work.
Yeah. It automatically routes orders to the closest warehouse, triggers basic pricing adjustments based on competitor scraping, and sends out low inventory alerts.
Which saves so much time.
It does, and then AI takes it a massive step further by predicting behavior. It can score inbound wholesale leads to tell your sales team exactly who is most likely to close. It can suggest the statistically perfect cross-sell offer to a direct customer based on thousands of previous transactions. And it dramatically speeds up the logistics of returns processing.
There's also a massive strategic emphasis on leveraging online marketplaces, right?
Yeah.
Using platforms like Amazon to capture their built-in massive daily traffic.
Well, a huge part of the strategy.
But succeeding there isn't just about throwing a product listing up and walking away. You have to use digital tools to obsessively optimize your listings, monitor review sentiment in real time, and ensure your logistics are tight enough to win the buy box.
The buy box is arguably the most fiercely contested real estate on the internet.
It really is.
It is the default Add to cart button on a marketplace product page. The marketplace algorithms ruthlessly award that button based on a combination of landed price, fulfillment speed, and seller defect rate.
So if you're too slow.
If your distribution plumbing is inefficient and you can't get the product to the customer as fast as your competitor, the algorithm strips you of the buy box. You lose the sale instantly, and the quality of your product becomes entirely irrelevant.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. A constant frustration we hear from professionals trying to implement this exact technology is the sheer volume of information.
It's a data overload.
Yes. Doesn't integrating a dozen different AI tools, multiple CRM dashboards, and automated supply chain feeds just lead to paralyzing data overload? If your dashboard is spitting out 5,000 different metrics every morning, how do you actually find the signal in all that noise?
This raises an important question, and it highlights a very dangerous trap. Many companies become obsessed with tracking absolutely everything, and as a result, they understand absolutely nothing.
Analysis paralysis.
Exactly. Römer's framework offers a highly specific antidote to this paralysis, establishing SMART goals and ruthlessly selecting only a tiny handful of KPIs that tie directly to revenue and efficiency.
Okay, so narrowing it down.
Yes. You don't need a dashboard with 100 vanity metrics.
Yep.
You need to relentlessly monitor coverage, conversion rate, repeat purchase frequency, and above all, contribution margin.
For those who might not be looking at financial sheets every day, contribution margin is the actual hard profit left over after you deduct the specific variable costs of servicing that one particular channel, right?
That's the one.
It's the water pressure remaining after paying for the pipes.
Exactly. When you have a unified dashboard that strips away the vanity metrics and focuses strictly on contribution margin, it acts as an early warning radar for channel conflict.
How so?
Well, the digital tools run pricing variance reports in the background. If a rogue partner starts unauthorizedly dropping prices and eroding your brand prestige, the system flags it instantly.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it runs audience overlap checks and promo collision alerts. If your dashboard shows that adding a massive new national distributor is indeed increasing your gross sales volume, but the specific cost to serve that distributor is completely wiping out the contribution margin, the data is telling you to cut that link out of the chain entirely.
It provides absolute visibility. You can actually see exactly where the pressure is dropping in the system and fix the leak before the reservoir runs dry.
Exactly.
So, now that we understand the underlying structures, the tension between direct and indirect, and the digital software required to monitor it all, how do we translate this theory into practical application? How do you use this to protect margins and ensure long-term growth?
The ultimate strategic takeaway is that distribution is an endless balancing act between maximizing customer access and maintaining operational simplicity.
Keep it simple.
Right. The golden rule is to choose the absolute simplest, effective route to reach your target audience. Every single time you are tempted to add a new intermediary, a new app, or a new retail partner to the chain, you must empirically prove that the new link won't just blindly erode profit.
So you have to justify every pipe.
Yes. By measuring only what matters, you gain the agility to rapidly shift your marketing budget and your physical inventory toward the routes that are actually generating profit.
So what does this all mean? If you are listening to this right now, gearing up to launch a brand new product line next quarter, you probably do not have the budget for a multi-million-dollar enterprise software rollout or a massive global warehouse expansion on day one.
Probably not.
What is the immediate practical first step to execute this strategy?
The most practical, immediately actionable advice is to strictly utilize a test and learn methodology.
Start small.
Exactly. Do not attempt to roll out a complex, multi-tiered hybrid strategy nationwide on day one. Run highly contained, geographically limited pilots. Pick one Tier 3 city or one specific trusted retail partner.
Okay.
Test your physical product assortments. Actively test those pricing fences we discussed to see if the retailer rebels or if the customer actually accepts the boundaries in the real world.
Which is crucial data.
Yeah. Test your fulfillment speeds. Gather the raw data, identify exactly where the margin is leaking, fix the plumbing, and then scale it up. Furthermore, you must fundamentally shift how you view your partners. Treat them as reliable, heavily scrutinized extensions of your own company.
It's about moving away from a transactional mindset. You don't just sign a wholesale contract, ship a pallet, and walk away hoping to the best.
Never.
You manage them actively. You evaluate potential companies for their specific category expertise and their local logistics resources before you ever sign them. Then, you use tools like partner scorecards, conduct strict quarterly business reviews, and provide them with clear enablement playbooks.
Because establishing clear operational rules, backed by active data-driven management, is the only way to turn a potentially chaotic network of totally independent businesses into a streamlined, high-performance extension of your own brand footprint.
As we wrap up this briefing, the overarching theme you should walk away with is that your go-to-market plan can never be static. The global market dynamically changes, competitor supply chains shift, and consumer expectations for immediate fulfillment are constantly increasing.
It never stops moving.
It doesn't. The future of distribution relies on your ability to constantly iterate your channel mix based on real-world financial results and unvarnished customer feedback. By phasing your launches, running contained pilots, and actively adjusting your strategy, your distribution network will compound your business growth over time rather than restricting it.
It is a never-ending, continuous loop of optimization. You architect the route, you meticulously measure the flow of goods and capital, you detect the points of friction, and you continuously upgrade the pipes.
Which leads directly to a final, somewhat provocative thought I want to leave you with to mull over as you analyze your own business.
Oh, I'm ready for this.
Early in the discussion, we established that physical goods flow forward, but vital data flows backward from the consumer to the producer.
Right.
We have been conditioned to view distribution channels purely as sales networks, pipes built solely to push product out into the world. But what if you completely flip that paradigm? What if you started viewing your distribution channels primarily as massive data collection networks?
Wow. Reframing the entire network around data collection completely changes the calculus of who you do business with.
It changes everything. If the real long-term strategic value of a retail transaction isn't just the immediate $3 of profit margin, but rather the behavioral data you gather to accurately predict the next decade's big trend,
Wow.
how might that fundamentally change who you choose to partner with tomorrow?
That's a huge perspective shift.
You wouldn't just look for a massive big box retailer who can move raw volume. You would demand a partner who is willing to share pristine, unfiltered customer data back up the chain. It's a completely different framework for valuing your network.
Under that framework, a retail partner who hoards customer data and refuses to share analytics becomes a strategic liability to your company's future, regardless of how much physical product they can move today.
It is absolutely something to think about as you audit your own partnerships and plan your next launch. We want to explicitly thank you for tuning in to the SmartKeys podcast today.
Yes, thank you for listening.
If you found this strategic breakdown valuable, please hit that subscribe button so you never miss an insight on how to optimize your operations. And I highly encourage you to read Felix Römer's full article. We have barely scratched the surface of the underlying mechanics today, and the original text features fantastic visual graphics, much deeper dives into value-added resellers, system integrators, and comprehensive management playbooks. The link to read the full piece is right there in the show notes. Until next time, keep a close eye on your plumbing and make sure you aren't losing your water pressure.